This is Abnormal Entertainment.
Well, we know where we're going, but we don't know where we've been. And we know what we're knowing, but we can't say what we've seen. And we're not little children, and we know what we want, and the future is certain. Give us time to work it out.
Hey folks, this is Daniel Garza, and welcome to another episode of Put It Together. I want to thank my producer, Mr. Kevin Moyers, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Inviting everybody to join us at abnormalentertainment.com for more shows, more information, lots of stuff on there. If you want to follow me, you can check me out at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just go and look for @LittleMexican, LILMESICAN. Check out all the stuff I have on the network, and send me comments, emails, information, anything you want, pictures. Love to hear from you guys. Today, I am really excited because this is not really a second part, but sort of like a second part. I have Christopher John Stubbs here with me today, and you guys might remember because Aaron brought him up in his episode. And I feel like we have a lot to talk about, so I'm not even going to talk anymore. Hi, Christopher. How you doing, sir?
Hello, Daniel. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. I'm just going to let you start, and then I'll just kind of chime in because we had a little conversation before, and I'm really okay. I'm going to come and there's a little bit of a man crush going on. Just kind of a little bit. I'm like, this guy's really cool. So, what do you go ahead and tell and my listeners how you put it together? What goes on with you?
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, Daniel, and thank you to all the listeners for being here and investing in themselves and taking time out of their day, out of everything else they could do in the world to listen to us. So my intention is to really provide a lot of value and make a big difference in your life for taking the time to do this.
Awesome.
So I'm not really sure. We haven't talked really a format or a structure. We don't have this all scripted out or anything, so we're just ad-lib this stuff. Maybe you guys know Daniel's style because you've been around, but
well, there's really the only question is how you put it together. And I guess to give you a little bit of, and I'll have to admit to the audience because they know that although I seem to be pretty technically knowledgeable, when it comes to the moment, there's always some kind of tragedy going on, so they know. When Aaron came on the show, he talked a little bit about a program that you have.
Yeah.
And before we talk about the program, I know there's a little bit of history, like to where you got to where you are now. You didn't just wake up one day and go, I have a new program to start. Let's do that. You had to, as the show goes, put it together.
Yeah.
So go as far back as you want to go in your life and kind of where was the moment where you said, okay, this is enough. I've got to do something to better myself.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. So, if we let's start in my late 20s. I was about 29 and, sometime, maybe even before that slightly. So late 20s, I am an owner of a construction business. I have 60 employees. I'm doing millions of dollars worth of work a year. I have a lot of toys and friends and nice things and a beautiful wife. And I come to find out my wife is sleeping with and having a relationship with my best friend, who's also my cousin who I grew up with. And for me, this is incredibly devastating. And, for many people, it probably would be. For me, it was maybe, probably on the extreme side devastating. And I wasn't really sure why. I thought I was a fairly confident guy. I had a lot of things going for me. But it was literally destroying me. Like I had no will to live. I had everything. My whole world was being swept out from under me off of this one piece, the relationship piece. And I tried drinking the pain away and tried to deal with all this stuff, and it just wouldn't clear up, and I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't eat. I was just devastated. And I ended up with a gun in my throat.
Oh, wow.
So in that moment, I was just there. I had the barrel in my throat, and I had thought about this before at different times, low moments in my life, but this time was a little different. Like, I actually wasn't scared to do it this time. There was enough pain that I wasn't scared this time. And literally the conversation I was having was pretty nonchalant. Like, well, if I find more reasons to do this than to not do it, then I'll go ahead and do that. And I was all alone in an apartment by myself. I was just waking up every day and drinking a fifth or two of Jaeger and run to the liquor store. And that was pretty much it. Go back to my apartment and drink throughout the day. And pretty much it felt like my life was over and that there was nothing left living for. And in that process, I chose not to end it that night. I later hired a life coach, which was the best decision I ever made in my life. She helped me turn shit around that I had been trying to figure out my entire life, 20 plus years of consciously trying to figure out what was going on. And she was helping me break through this shit left and right. And in a matter of minutes or less than an hour, than in areas that I hadn't been able to figure out my entire life.
Right.
And as we tracked back, what I realized was all this stuff related back to my childhood and my upbringing and all kinds of things. My earliest memories were of an abusive father who was an alcoholic, who was incredibly scary and rough. I mean, one of my early memories is of him pulling up to a cliff in our vehicle with all of us in the car, my mom, all my brothers and sisters, and telling us to stop crying and shut up, or that he would drive the car off the cliff.
Oh, my God.
And surging the engine and slamming on the brakes. And so I grew up in a very toxic environment, and it was a rough environment. And, I basically tried to have this positive attitude throughout life to just, ignore all that, act like it didn't happen, act like it didn't affect me, act like I'm fine, just be tough, just push through. And ultimately I thought, what the hell? I'm a success. I have nice cars and nice everything. And, you would think that I was a confident, happy, successful dude, but here I am ready to end it all. And the truth behind the scenes, beyond some financial success, I wasn't truly successful.
Before you go on, kind of like a really cool, not a cool benchmark, but it was interesting that you brought it up about somebody hurt you, and now you go out and hurt yourself even more.
Yeah.
Why, in your opinion, why do you think we do that? Like, somebody's already broken my heart, or left me, or cheated on me, or whatever, and now I'm going to go and hurt me more.
Yeah. So ultimately, I was looking for an escape, looking for a way out, looking for a magic pill, looking to end the pain. But if you get to the bottom of all of it, the reason why I would attract someone that would do that in the first place would be a lack of self-love. The reason why I would want to hurt myself and would allow my life to fall apart in the face of somebody choosing to not be with me or to be with someone else would be a lack of love for myself.
Right.
So I didn't know this at the time. All I knew was I was in massive pain and I wanted out. I didn't know how to end it. I just wanted the pain to end because emotionally inside it was destroying me.
Right. And that usually leads people on the same road to, okay, well, I'm just going to end it all.
Yeah.
But from where I'm sitting, listening, I'm going, if you're sitting with the gun and you're still doing a pros and cons list, you probably don't want to go.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, because don't we hear it all the time that people who threaten or call into a hotline or call their exes and say, if you don't come back, I'm going to kill myself, that they usually don't want to kill themselves. They're just screaming for help. So I guess you to yourself, by making that pro and cons list, were just trying to yell, but nobody was really there to listen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could have definitely reached out to people, and I wasn't reaching out. I was keeping it to myself. I had plenty of people I could have threatened to get attention to and whatever. And I was, just wasting away on my own. And so I don't know that it's fair to say that I wanted to stay or that I didn't want to stay. It's probably more accurate that it was both. Part of me absolutely was done and couldn't take it anymore, and the other part didn't want to give up and wanted to, there was some innate, inherent value for a life and for choosing to succeed at life versus to, go through all the hell that I had gone through just to give up. And then who knew what was coming after that? Was there truly relief? Or was it a continuation of some sort? Or, based on my religious upbringing, maybe even worse.
Yeah. Well, aren't you glad that there's that little bit of guilt that because I attempted suicide when I was younger, before I came out, and the only thing I was too dumb to know what would kill you, so I took a whole bottle of aspirin, and all I ended up doing was upsetting my stomach and throwing up. And I thought maybe I throw up first and then I die. Maybe that's how it works, and it didn't. Obviously, it didn't work. But there was that. I was raised Catholic, and there was that little bit of guilt, like, well, shit, if I kill myself, and what if I get to heaven and they're like, oh no, you're the Garza that killed himself. You don't get to come in here. Oh, and plus you're gay, so this is a Catholic. This is a Catholic heaven. We don't let you guys in here. So you go to the life coach, and I apologize. I don't mean to make light of it at all, but I guess once you've done it, once you've been that step, you come back and you're like, okay, so I'm alive. You go to the life coach. She works with you. Obviously, it's not an immediate result. It's not a microwave oven for feelings.
Yeah.
Is it hard as a man to work through those feelings? Because we're taught not to deal with them. And hide them up.
I was certainly conditioned to suppress and deny my feelings. Didn't know how to express myself from those deep places. It was definitely challenging to ask for help, to receive that help, to be that vulnerable and open and honest with somebody, to face myself that honestly on all parts. And we looked at so many parts of myself, my sexual guilt and shame, my all kinds of guilt and shame and all past beliefs and stories that were keeping me stuck. And we just broke it down one at a time, one session at a time, and went deeper and deeper and deeper. And it was so incredibly powerful, just amazing and phenomenal that ultimately I started digging in and studying. I went to indigenous tribes in Mexico, the Tarahumara tribe, and I went to clear down south to Cancun and spent some time in the jungle down there. And I spent time with Native American tribes up here, vision questing and sweat lodging. And then I later took several years worth of studying of psychology and interpersonal relationship skills and communication and parenting and psychology and body language. And so I went from this rough, gruff farm boy, construction dude, redneck basically, to this kind of, woo-woo healer, almost borderline hippie, yoga and all this deep healing. I was doing just this deep, deep healing work and seeking this healing and everywhere, and this understanding, this education, this empowerment on the floor, just everywhere that I could find it.
Right.
And I pursued that path for many, many years. The truth is it's a lifelong path for me now, but for a while there, it was literally like I was just grasping to create a new reality for myself because the reality that I had wasn't working very well.
Okay. So if you can, and if you remember, was there a pep talk? Was there a self-conversation that you had? Was there a time in the mirror? What was it that you said to yourself? Because I've known a lot of redneck construction workers in my time who are Mr. Macho. And if I had ever even remotely said, hey, let's work on your chakras, they would have been like, keep your chakras to yourself. I'll handle my own. There would have been no way that I could get them to talk, because now that I work with spirituality and energy, there would have been no way I could have got them to do that.
Yeah.
So never mind going to a therapist. There had to have been one brick on your wall that you tore down first. What did you say to yourself? What motivated you to break down that first brick?
It's not super clear to me other than it was shortly after the suicide,
attempt
experience, and just like feeling in the depths. And it was a last ditch effort. I remember when I was a child, my dad was a real jerk and an alcoholic, and my mom was somehow hanging on, trying to convince him to do therapy. And he absolutely refused to do therapy. And I think that helped influence my attitude and perspective about therapists, coaching, asking for help, defending my position, trying to be right or egotistical, all that stuff. That's what was modeled for me. Everything that didn't work was what was modeled for me. How to be broke, how to be a know-it-all, how to not be open to learning, how to be a controlling, domineering, chauvinistic asshole, how to, like, all these things, like, literally, like, when it comes to money and prosperity, not shown.
Ain't gonna happen.
Anything healthy in the spiritual realm or relationship realm or financial realm or health realm, like, none of that was modeled for me. Pretty much the opposite was modeled for me. So, at this point, it was just, there was so much pain. It just, there wasn't a choice. It was either die or change.
It sounds from listening to you that when you got to that crossroad and there's that fork in the road, it was like, on one side is your dad's story, like a little film just playing. And then on the other side is a sign that says something different. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Pretty much that. Like, there's got to be something better than this, and I'll try. Just, like, tell me, let's go try some shit. Let's see. Because
you've already experienced all that.
Yeah.
All that. I mean, everybody has the potential. Anybody who's had a dad like that, and my dad has some similarities. Anybody who's had a dad like that, we know how to get there. We've seen the progress. We know how easy it is to get to that bitter, angry, I'm kind of done with life, but I'm still going to hang around just to piss everybody else off. Or there's the other road, and it just says different. And you're like, I will try different, anything. Like, put me in a skirt, paint me pink, and call me Mary.
Yeah.
It's better than what it's being offered. So, I get it. So you go off to these tribes. What was the first place you went to visit?
Probably the first path, this woman, this life coach started to help me, heal sexual trauma and reclaim my sexual authority and to reclaim my worth and to release all kinds of emotional trauma that was stored in my body. And we did energy work, and we did psychological coaching, and we did rapid eye therapy, and we did all these different processes. We did breath work and things that helped unhook the source of the root of my problems, my struggles, my challenges. And then ultimately I started attending workshops that started to help me identify who I was, why I was here, what I was passionate about. Just getting to know myself beyond my conditioning, beyond my stories and my environment. And so first it was a lot of workshops, and then kind of in the midst of that, someone invited me to a sweat lodge, and that sweat lodge later turned into another sweat lodge and another, and then pretty soon I was doing a vision quest with that tribe, and on and on. And I happened to end up down at a wedding in Mexico, and there was actually some beautiful girls that kind of said, hey, we want to go check out this tribe. And so we headed out and tracked down this tribe. And so it was just I don't remember the exact order of what happened when, but it was just anytime an opportunity that came up for me to go further in the direction of self-discovery and healing and transformation and expansion, I just kept taking it.
And I mean, who hasn't said yes to beautiful girls in a wedding in Mexico? I mean, come on. Most amazing stories start that way. I met two girls, they invited me to Mexico, and here I am, a guru.
All of a sudden, I was interested in transformation.
Yeah, and bow before me because I'm a king in Mexico. Still sitting here looking at you, I would not point you and say, "Oh, this guy has walked an enlightened path, or has taken a journey, or is on this journey." I would still say, "Okay, this is some white dude, like Middle America or whatever." How have you managed to keep a balance? Because it is a balance. I think we both know those people that actually go to the extremes and they're walking around like they're floating on clouds. But once you sit down and talk to them, they have no center. They're not grounded. Yeah. They're pretending to live in a higher realm. And you're just thinking, stop eating the mushrooms. It's really. And I think only people who know listening to the show will be like, "Oh, I get it, man. I get it." How are you able to? Because I've heard, and I want you to share everything that you do and everything you're involved in a minute. But how do you keep that balance? Where you're like, I can still cuss and be spiritual, like whatever, dude.
Yeah. So, basically there was a time that I went ultra, like that, what's that guy, ultra spiritual dude? What's his name? JP Sears.
Okay.
Yeah. So funny dude, but yeah, like I went ultra spiritual. Like I thought I was ultra spiritual, than better, more smart, more conscious than everybody. So I was lost in the clouds in all these ways, and I mean, there was so many steps along the journey, but basically I got to this point. So I later on meet this woman, fall in love with her. We get married. We're together for say 5 years or so. And that's the love of my life. Like she's absolutely amazing. She's on the conscious path with me. We share all the same values. She's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. My life's going great in the relationship department, but I had since sold my construction business, invested all this time and energy into expanding myself. Later, several years down the road, decide to launch my coaching business and let that be my career and life path. But I didn't realize at the time, I still had so many limiting thoughts and stories and beliefs about money and business and marketing and sales and people and life. And I'm so lost in the ethers from watching The Secret and this whole idea of just, coming to me and me just being in this enlightened state and everything just working out magically because I'm so enlightened and all this shit. And basically, it got to a point where my wife told me, I'm sick and tired of the up and down. I'm sick and tired of, pie in the sky bullshit. I'm sick and tired of you having these wild, crazy ass dreams and us being broke and not knowing how to pay the bills. She's like, get a job or I'm out. And I said, well, I won't get a job. And she said, okay, I'm out. And so it wasn't quite, I'm leaving you. It was more like I kind of told her too. It was kind of like, hey, we're going to take some time apart and then we'll see. And I basically told her, you figure out how to love yourself and make yourself happy and quit blaming me for your unhappiness and trying to make me take responsibility for your happiness. And she told me, get your shit together and learn to fight as a father and a husband.
Because I can almost hear her going, but I'm enlightened.
Yeah.
How dare you question me, woman?
And so I was like, fine, all right, I'll go. I've been already trying to figure this shit out, but I've been trying to do it from the woo-woo, enlightened approach, and that's all. Which I'm not diminishing any of that. There's power in all of that, but it's kind of like a recipe. It's like it's not the only key, right? We got, like you said, there's a balance. there's other keys involved. Like if I didn't learn sales and marketing and to tap into my masculine power in a way that works, not the old way, because I had gone away from that because what was modeled for me was a bunch of redneck, chauvinistic, egotistical bullshit.
Right.
But so then I go away from that power because what that wasn't, they did it in a way that didn't work. But to later discover in that separation, I did some intense physical stuff during that time, took on a warrior program and went through a lot of training. I took on CrossFit. Well, here's what happened. The first step was I was basically praying. Like I am a spiritual dude. I'm not a religious dude.
Right.
But I was basically praying or meditating or just asking, like, what the hell do I do? Like, I'm so sick of this struggle around my finances, this feast or famine pattern that I witnessed in my dad and that I seem to be carrying out. How do I get past this? And the message came through really clear finally after a lot of seeking, and it said, handle your fitness and the finances will work themselves out. The way you do one thing is the way you do all things, and the very same things that are holding you back in fitness are holding you back in your finances.
Interesting.
So if you back up a little bit, when I was in my late 20s, I was 260 pounds. So if you look at me now, I lift and I'm solid. I've done Ironman, like I've done 6 or 7 triathlons and all these things, and I've gotten my health handled. But for 5 years, I went raw vegan during this enlightened stage. And I did a 65-day juice fast during that time. So no food, 65 days. All this other crazy extreme shit. But in the midst of this, I come back and basically I get this message and it says, yeah, you've done all this nutrition stuff and yeah, you've lost some weight, but you still can't get your ass off the couch consistently and get into the gym and stay with you, taking care of your body and building and enhancing and being the best version of yourself and honoring this vessel that you've been given. And so I go to work. I join CrossFit. I burn all bridges. I just tell myself, no more fucking around. I'm tired of the mental debate and bullshit. I'm doing CrossFit, and I'm for the sake of conquering myself and the voices in my head that convince me I'm too fucking sore, too tired, too whatever the excuses are about why I don't do the things I don't do. So I joined CrossFit, and I end up being this weird guy that's crying half the time after the workouts. Not because of the physical pain, but because I'm having these huge breakthroughs in the process.
Right.
Right. So like one of the first times I remember, it was only a couple weeks in, they had this workout that was 10 rounds. I got 3 rounds in and my mind was literally screaming to me, you can't go on. It's too much. It's too hard. You're going to die. You got to stop. And I was like, no, I'm not stopping. I committed and I'm not stopping. We've already played this game for 20 years. We're done.
Right.
And then I finished all 10 rounds. And at the end of that, I'm breaking down and sobbing. And the other guys were seriously looking at me like, what the hell is up with this dude? I'm over here bawling on the floor because I'm just having these deep realizations about how I've been showing up in life, how every time life got hard, I would go to round 3 and stop when my marketing campaign got hard or when my marriage or relationship got hard or when, whatever the hell I was up to got hard, then I would make up some story and excuse about how I needed to stop, and I would let those voices win.
Right. Yeah. And isn't what's your thought process? Because I think we want to clarify for people. If working out is not your breakthrough, if building your body is not your goal, don't go off and join a CrossFit and then hate us for it.
Yeah.
We all have our own path,
Yeah.
our own breakthroughs. And just example for me, I'm social media, I'm communication, but there was a little while there where I thought nobody's listening to me, nobody's writing, I should just stop. And I did. I was doing these crappy shows that had no meaning. And then I would listen to them and go, you suck. Like that. And then I finally said, just go call the people that you want to talk to. leave them an email, leave them a message. The worst thing they can say is no, and you move on. But here you are wondering and wondering and wondering, and wondering doesn't actually get you the interviews. And finally I did, and I got the people that I wanted on my show, and I was like, oh my God, like I got this person. This is so awesome. So that's my CrossFit. That's my goal.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion on that?
Totally agree. And a couple of things that I discovered. Basically, the more we can stretch outside our comfort zone, whether it be speaking on, I used to be horrified to speak on video. Now I could care less. You could say, hey, let's go live right now. And I'm ready. Let's go.
My kind of people.
Yeah. But back in the day, literally, I'd be like, wait, what are we going to say? I don't know. And then I'd be flushed and my skin would get red and I would be thinking in my head too fast and I would stumble over my words and I'd just be all uncomfortable. I was the guy sitting in the back of the room that did not, you wouldn't ever think that I would be on stage or on social media or anything. And now I'm always in front of thousands of people all the time, 24/7. So one of the things that has been the biggest difference for me is stretching outside my comfort zone over and over and over and over again. So if I find myself resistant and hesitant to deal with the physical side, deal with it. If it's getting on stage, deal with it. If it's getting on video, so getting outside your comfort zone. Now, like you say, I'm not promoting CrossFit. I don't even do CrossFit anymore. I don't even know that CrossFit's the best thing for all people. For the right people, right scenarios, right times, sure.
Right.
But basically, so one of the principles I point out, like get outside your comfort zone pretty much in every area. Like sexually, be smart about your choices. Don't blame us if you make stupid ass choices, but be smart, but stretch outside your comfort zone and learn the truth. Like it's safe. It's safe and you will gain more and more confidence. The more, I could be totally comfortable at a gay convention or a all women's convention or a yoga thing or a total men's thing or a total so many in the wilderness or in the city. But a lot of my redneck friends are only comfortable, like half those things I named off, they're not okay with.
Right.
Or my city woo-woo friends, half the things I named off, they're not okay with. Right? So ultimately, there's this liberation and freedom that's available when we put ourselves in those uncomfortable situations and move through our stories and our judgments so that we can be in a space of love and integrity and this solidness and this confidence that we're not scared. We're not scared of our surroundings. We don't have to be in our little bubble to be okay.
The interesting about the comfort zone, because we all, who doesn't want to be in a comfort zone? I mean, it's comfortable. It's nice. You got everything you need. You got everything you want. You get the people that you choose to be in there. It's like this prefabricated home that you build for yourself. What, from your point of view, other than those things, why are we so afraid of leaving that? What stops us from walking out of that?
Again, it roots back to self-love.
Okay.
Right? So if I go outside that comfort zone and I don't know how to fit in, or if, somebody from my normal comfort zone judges one of those other places that I go to, then maybe there's this primal fear that I'll be cast out of the tribe. Right? So if you look back in the day, now we got social media. Right? You and I have never met in person, but here we are on social media and we're forging a friendship and relationship over social media, having never met each other in person before, and we can do this from thousands of miles away, even though we're only hundreds of miles away right now.
Correct.
But, so we have community now that is global. It's unlimited. We have access to community that's unlimited. But I grew up in a small town community that was hardcore, fundamentalist, religious. They were the one and only people of the true church, and everyone else was screwed. There was a few thousand of us that were okay, and the other 7-point-something billion people were all going to hell. Right? So when you're in that scenario, if you're cast out of that tribe, and what they've painted the outside world to be is a very scary place, and if the cost of that is eternal damnation in hell, the stakes are incredibly high.
Right.
right? Or if you take this more primal, think of a wolf pack or a lion pack. I don't know if they call them lion packs, but whatever, you know what I mean. Right. So what if a lion is cast out of the herd or whatever it is? Chances are a group of hyenas is going to take them out within just a matter of time. Like a lion on its own isn't that powerful in the thick of things in that environment.
Right.
Same with a wolf. A wolf on its own can be easily taken out. As a pack, it's a whole nother story. Right. So primally, we know if we're kicked out of the in crowd, we're kicked out of the group, the church, the whatever the hell that is our group at the time, it's scary. You may or may not survive. And it may, if you have religious indoctrination, your eternal salvation may be on the line as well.
That's
right?
interesting. Yeah.
So it's deeply conditioned from before we can even remember that, and we think we're scared of the unknown. You're not scared of the unknown. You're scared of the known. You're scared that the things that have happened in the past will happen again. Maybe we got teased in school. If you're gay, I guarantee you got some shit from whoever, like right. Different layers at different times, just like we all have in different ways. And so it's scary. We're scared that same shit will happen. We'll be cast out. We'll be beat up. We'll be trodden. We might even be killed. I mean, they called them witch trials in the past. What's the reality of witch trials? They were probably herbalists.
Right.
Right. How many people have been killed throughout society for being different?
Right.
Or even just punished for the color of their skin or their sexual orientation or whatever the hell may be the case.
Well, Jesus Christ, you just put me in every box. I'm never going to leave. I'm never going to leave my house. But no, actually, it's something that I knew, but I never really dissected it that way. But, because I was horribly teased when I was a kid. I changed cities to go to a different school. And I was just at a gay men's, AA conference this weekend, and I felt out of place among all these other gay men because they were younger, because they were thinner, because they were prettier. I'm adorable, but I'm not pretty. And so it was like all these things, and I purposely isolated from the group just to not be. And interesting. Yeah, the patterns do come back. And I didn't think about it until you just said right now.
Yeah. And it's not just darker skin. I know darker skins have faced shit from us white people so much. It's just disgusting when I look at history. I'm ashamed of what Caucasians have done. And it's not just that way, right? So, Islam has gone after whites, and I grew up on an Indian reservation where we were the minority. Whites, Mexicans, and blacks were the minority in an Indian world. So we were all buddies, protecting and banding together to survive against this Native American world. And so, I don't have quite the same experience as the average, white person. It was more like, I bonded with Mexicans and blacks and hated Indians. So, and so now I've grown past that. Like I see the interesting ways we look at those things and make it up to be about skin and color and whatever. And I know that the natives were just angry because of all the atrocities,
right?
Like massive amounts of atrocities that have been committed to them. So it's really interesting to look at. But bottom line is, like, we in ego look for what's separate, what's different, and we attack and isolate and punish and condemn and sometimes even kill.
And then if I can add to that, I think as adults, we purposely look for how we are different, so we don't have to connect, so we don't have to participate.
Yeah.
And then when people do kind of say something negative, we assume we're right. See, I told you they were gonna say something. Well, if you've been a dick the whole time, why would they? It's not because you're a different color. It's because you're being an asshole.
Yeah.
That they don't want to talk to you. That makes sense. Because my dad would do stuff like that. Like, I told you they were going to do that. Well, yeah, you've been an asshole this whole time.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around you.
What do you expect?
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool point of view. I like that. Okay, so you go through these journeys with two girls in Mexico at a wedding. You've made it back to the States. Your wife is kind of like giving you this ultimatum. What next? How do you keep moving forward?
And just to be clear about that, so the girls in the States was, years before the wife ultimatum, like probably
yes.
years before, so.
For those of you listening, and for the ex-wife, this was a long time. This was not immediate.
So I'm with my wife, and she's like, get this shit handled. So I joined CrossFit, and I start doing Spartan races, and later that becomes Ironman races, and it's just this opportunity because the physical part doesn't lie. Like I could play games all day long about my enlightenment or my strength or my whatever, but at the end of the day, like when it's physical, you either did it or you didn't do it, and there's no bullshitting about it.
Right.
There's no convincing. Like it's just a hard physical fact. It either happened or it didn't happen. And most of the issue isn't the physical, it's the mental. And it's not just about being tough and willpower, like, yeah, hoorah, like the average man acts, because most of my buddies that took on that shit at the same time as me ended up with 5 or 10 different injuries in their body, right? So that was the macho thing, is they're not in right relationship with themselves. They're hoorah, like typical macho bullshit. And then they have all these injuries because they're not in right relationship with themselves in their internal masculine and feminine. Right? So when I'm talking doing Ironman and CrossFit and all this shit, I'm not talking the typical macho bullshit. I'm talking actually being in right relationship with yourself and your body and loving yourself and honoring yourself and listening to your body and building that relationship and increasing that capacity over time in a loving way versus the typical guilt, shame, like a lot of these guys will say, come on, don't be a pussy. And all these demeaning terms and terminology and aspects of the way they relate with themselves and others, right? And so it's different than that. It's about being in right balance with the masculine and the feminine so that I can be the softest, gentlest, most connected, empathetic, loving, kind, sensitive possible version of myself. And on the other side, that I could also, when the time's right, be very firm and solid and confident. And so rather than egotistical and the typical lack of humility and know-it-all egotistical prick, have the strength of the greatest warrior, but the gentleness, the kindness, the connectivity of the greatest lover, the most enlightened person. So it's not about giving up the enlightenment that I gained. It's not about giving up the strength that I gained as that young redneck kid. It's how can we access the power of both of those? If you look at the creation of a baby, there's the sperm, right, that is this kind of energy of swim like crazy and there can be only one, right? It's on a mission, seeking. And then the energy of the egg, which is just relaxing and being and receiving, right? With nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to prove. We all have both of those energies in us. Right. And when we learn to access both of those in proper times, then we have the greatest power and ability to create whatever we set our mind to create in our world, whatever that may be.
So basically what you're saying is, and I think this could go across the board, men, women, for any physical...
Gay, straight, any color, man, woman, anything. If you're human, you have masculine and feminine qualities. Even in gay relationships, if you look at it.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking men, women. In gay relationships, there must be a polarity. Typically, you have a more manly or more masculine and a more feminine in every relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's every, but almost always.
Yeah.
Whether it's male on male, female on female, male on female, whatever, there's typically a masculine is attracted to a feminine, regardless of the body parts. And so it's like magnets. If you turn it one way, they repel. And if you turn it the other way, they draw two.
Now,
So in our relationships, we've got to have that polarity. So in my relationship, when my wife and I separated, that polarity had gotten off. I was too much in my feminine, had lost access to my masculine. She then stepped in like, hey, if I can't trust you to show up and handle your shit, then I'll step in and make sure. Then I feel micromanaged and controlled and emasculated, right? And so now we're fighting and struggling, and the sexual attraction's gone on both parts, and we're both feeling like not supported, not seen, not loved, all because of that one thing.
Right. But you gave it up. She didn't just come and took it. Right? Clarify the story.
Right.
You gave it up. You're like, no, I'm over here, fairies and ponies and beautiful stars, and
Yep.
it was like, well, fuck, somebody's got to wear the pants. Like,
Yeah, someone needs to have the pants.
and then you feel emasculated, and
Yep.
and then you retaliate, and she's like, well, dude, like, where the fuck have you been? Like,
Yeah.
But you're right. There always has to be, and I think to clarify for people listening, it doesn't necessarily mean man and woman energy. It's masculine and feminine energy.
Yes.
But there's very masculine women with very effeminate men, and it works beautifully. They handle it great.
Yes.
So for those of you listening, it doesn't necessarily mean man and woman, because then you're saying, what about the gay people? No. Feminine energy, masculine energy.
Yes. And there's masculine, feminine energy in everything. So like a rod or a line is usually considered masculine. But curves and roundness, if you were to look at this would be considered a feminine.
All right.
This would be considered masculine. So there's the curves, the roundness, circles, softness, receiving. Actually, I love and appreciate the feminine side of myself and my wife, if anything, more than the masculine often, because it's so nurturing and loving and beautiful. Like, who doesn't like boobs, right?
Who doesn't?
Right? But curves, we like curves.
Yeah.
Right? We like, so we like both. The truth is we all like both to one degree or another.
Yeah. No, and even as a gay man, there's an attraction to the feminine, and and obviously an attraction to the masculine, and even just for people listening, both me and my boyfriend are very alpha, but we've compromised. It's like, okay, this is your thing. You take the dominant side, and I'll follow you. And then sometimes it's his things going on. I'm like, okay, well, you lead, I follow. But it's a dance you have to learn. And from watching my parents and my sisters with their husbands, I've learned that every couple has to do that dance, and you don't always get to lead. Yeah. And I think that's where folks make the mistake. But now, kind of rounding it back to your business and what you do, you had to learn to dance, and I think this is something that I've learned after 10 years of sobriety, and with all the illnesses that I've been through. I had to learn how to dance with myself or by myself. Yeah. And find the right movements to keep moving me forward. Does that make sense? Yeah. How, I don't want to run out of time, and I want to make sure that we get everything out, but you finally realized that you needed this balance, and you appreciate both. What next? How do you get into what you do now? So, I go through all these experiences. I swing from the redneck to the soft, gentle dude to discovering my inner warrior and that masculine power, and then I practice integrating all of that. And part of that's like, maintaining that intuition. I was always sensitive and kind and caring. I was always intuitive and very aware of other people's feelings, although not so good at expressing my own. So I practice expressing my own feelings. I practice learning how to communicate in effective ways. I learn and practice all these masculine things. I do some boxing and some Brazilian jiu-jitsu and some Spartan races and all these things to kind of bring this balance and integrate the two. And I implement, one of the greatest things I ever did was implement this daily,
process of and daily routine of making sure that every day I was winning. So one of the processes I did was connect with my deathbed goals. If I were on my deathbed 50 or 60 or 70 years from now, what would it take for my life to be a complete and total success? And so I start from that place, identify what that end goal would be, whatever that is for me. Not that I assume everyone's is the same, but that each person take the time to discover what that is for them. What would make their life an absolute, complete, and total success? And from there, reverse engineer back and say, daily, what do I get to do on an everyday basis to have that be my reality on my deathbed? So, what do I get to do in the area of my relationships?
Okay.
Every day. Kind of like the theory of living like you're dying. Like if you only had a certain amount of time to live, or you never knew when you were going to go, how would you live every day in your relationships? How would you be every day with your health? How would you be every day with your spirituality? How would you be every day with your finances? And for me, that boils down to me doing something that I love, that I know makes a positive contribution in people's lives and in the world. I think that boils down to me working out every day and eating healthy every day so that my mind is clear and my energy is high, and that I'm more likely to be the father I want to be, the husband I want to be, the make the contribution and leave the legacy that I want to live in this life and leave in this life. And that the being spiritually connected, whatever that is for me. Some people that's religion and scripture. Some people that's nature. Some people that's, whatever it is. There's so many paths to get there. There's the one saying says there's infinite paths up the mountain, and the only one wasting their time is the one running around telling everyone else they're on the wrong path.
Right. Yeah, I heard that.
So, so just discovering how am I going to, in all four of those areas, relationships, health, finances, and spirituality,
Okay.
be thriving and progressing and expanding every single day so that I'm becoming the next greatest version of myself, so that I'm as clear and powerful as possible, and knowing that anytime any one of those areas is struggling, it's affecting all the other areas. Kind of like if you had a 4-cylinder engine and one of the cylinders weren't firing, it's a pretty rough little experience, and you don't know if you're for sure going to get there.
Right.
And so doing those daily practices has been key. Doing the hard things, stretching those comfort zones, getting outside of that comfort zone, all of that has been key for me to be at a place where I now make a lot of money doing what I love. I help a lot of people. I have an amazing relationship. We've got a baby on the way that we're very excited about.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my health is, not 100% perfect, but it's beautiful. It's amazing. I'm an Ironman, and I lift, and I eat healthy, and I feel amazing.
Cool.
I have plenty of energy to play with my kids and make love to my wife at the end of the day, and do the things that I love to do. So, the transformation has been, irrefutable and absolutely beautiful and amazing and such a blessing. It's been a lot of work, but it's been absolutely worth it and then some.
Cool. Well, now that you talked about, your business, tell the folks, what's your business?
So as I went on this journey of transformation, maybe a couple years into it, I was like, I've got to start sharing this with others. Like the true gift, if I receive this gift and I don't give it away, then I haven't truly received it. And so what I discover now is when you do what you love, you get paid not just in money, you get paid in emotional, like just the joy and satisfaction of seeing someone light up, seeing someone's life be blessed. And so I've spent the last 10, almost 11 years now being a life coach and helping others to be successful in relationships and business are the two main areas. I pretty much believe that the greatest certification is the results you've created for yourself. Like if you've been in the depths of hell in an area and you've created a high level of heaven in that area, that's the greatest certification in the world. So, I've struggled with health and overcome that, but I don't feel like I'm called to be a health coach. Right. So primarily I focus on really helping people discover their passion and purpose and make a lot of money doing it, and having amazing, amazing relationships, because I believe everything is about relationships. Our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with money, our relationship with our lover, our children, anything and everything in our world. It all boils back to self-love and relationships. Right. So those are the two main things I do. We had Aaron on the show, and you interviewed him about the initiation. And the initiation is my men's only event. I have various events, one that's for men and women, one that's for couples, one that my wife does for women only, and one that I do that's men only, called the initiation. And Aaron, you interviewed him, and he just shared, and that's why I'm on the show, is you were inspired by what he shared about his experience coming to my event. And so the initiation, I take men into the wilderness for a week. We don't spend the whole week there. We spend the first few days in a retreat center. We do some deep meditative work and some deep, basically what I've done is I created this event while I was training for Ironman. I was on a 9-hour workout one day. Wow. And I had plenty of time to think, and I was just designing in my head. I'm like, my life's pretty amazing these days. What do I need to do to be able to pass down to others and help others that are where I used to be where I am now? I was like, what? The number one thing that's helped me do that has been doing hard things, doing scary things. Like, that was the number one thing. That whole moment when the inspiration said, handle your fitness and your finances will work themselves out. Since then I've done, like I said, 65-day juice fast. That's a hard thing to do. Fishing, questing, and sweat lodges, and Ironman, and all these things. And so I've designed in my mind on that ride, that 9-hour workout, a week-long retreat for men, where I put them through some very intense, mentally, emotionally, and physically challenging things that get them outside their comfort zone, and they leave there the most confident, the most solid, the most free, because, you described the joys of being in a bubble. And so the thing is about expanding your comfort zone or stretching outside your comfort zone isn't that you lose your bubble. It's that you bring your bubble with you wherever you go. Exactly. It's that now the whole world, I think it's Southwest Airlines says you're now free to move about the country. Yeah. It's like you're now free to move about the world. Like the world is here to be enjoyed, but if you're in your little comfort zone, you're going to miss out on all of it. I have friends that still live in the community I came from that have never really left there their entire life. Meanwhile, I've traveled the whole world and learned to love so many cultures and people, and have great love and this zest for life. And I find all this safety and joy and beauty everywhere I go, and they're still in this scary little world all by themselves, never experienced anything. Yeah. Right? So, basically, if you're a man and you have a hard time following through, or you find that the voices in your head win more often than you, like that you're not actually the driver of your ship, that you maybe have big dreams and desires and goals and visions, but you usually start them and don't finish them. You have massive frickin' potential, but you just somehow always feel stuck and like you're not breaking through and really living up to your potential or experiencing the results you want. That's what this particular event was designed for, is let's take you out for a week in a full immersion experience, stretch you outside your comfort zone, give you some challenging things to overcome. You will survive. It won't be easy, but at the end you leave very confident and solid, and your comfort zone is expanded exponentially, and your ability to just step up and be a leader. And like you said earlier, in your relationship, you're both what alphas, and I don't know if alpha is the best word, because most people associate alpha with like this know-it-all, arrogant, like whatever. But the truth is, in the wolf pack, the alpha is very kind and gentle and caring and sensitive and aware. And so basically what you were saying is you're both strong-willed, you're both leaders, but the best leaders know when to follow. Yep. And there was this feminine, masculine aspect that you're describing that becomes a dance instead of the typical egotistical, chauvinistic relationship was about inequality. Right. And any relationships are only relationships and thriving relationships when they're amongst equals. Anything else is an entanglement. Anything that's not with equals is an entanglement.
Yeah.
Not a relationship.
And it took me 41 years to meet the right person that could handle
so beautiful.
Me saying, hey, I got this.
That you can both be in your power. You don't have to squash or control or diminish the other. That you know when to lead and know when to follow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and again, it works for men and women. For those of you listening, it's not just for gay men. It works for everybody. So put it into practice. It's hard. Yes. It's hard to be a leader that follows. Yes.
But it's like if you can't be a true leader if you don't know how to follow would be the rest of that statement.
So tell the folks before we run out of time, where to find you, websites, all the information, because I want them to go and check it out. I think it's an amazing product that you have. And, at some point when I'm a little better physically, I want to be part of it and come out. So.
Awesome, Daniel. I would love to have you. I appreciate that. So if you go to my website, ascendyourlimits.com, you can find my blog and different resources and pages there. I have a very active profile. My primary social media profile is Facebook. So if you just go to Facebook, ChristopherJohnStubbs.com, and if you're looking for particular groups or resources on there, if you go to I have a page on Facebook called Limitless Legion, or a group, not a page. And in that group, we explore anything and everything that helps us reach our full potential. So that's what Limitless Legion is about. If you have, and it's free, a free group. You know, I have my paid stuff, but there's free resources on my website, ascendyourlimits.com, my free group, Limitless Legion on Facebook, and then I have another free group called Increasing Passion and Intimacy, which is all about the relationship side of things.
That's another show in itself.
Yeah. So those are some resources, and you can check out my personal Facebook wall as well. I used to be incredibly active on there. I still show up quite a bit, but my business is thriving a lot more than it used to. So, I mean, that was how I kind of launched my business. So I'm not quite as active there, but I'm still there, and I provide a lot of value there as well.
And for those of you listening, we'll post all these information on Put It Together podcast Facebook page, so you can go there and find everything. I'll make sure to have everything for you guys. Part of the tradition of my show is for my guests to share some words of wisdom with my listeners. What can you throw our way?
So I would say unconditional love and impeccable integrity are the two pillars that are most important in all of life. Learn to love yourself unconditionally, because if you don't have self-love, you don't have confidence. If you don't have confidence, you're not going to make big money. You're not going to attract the ideal lover or mate. You're not going, so everything in your life is based in self-love. But impeccable integrity is just as important. If you don't have that true humility, when I say self-love, I don't mean arrogance. I don't mean know-it-all. I don't mean macho. I don't mean fake confidence. I mean legit, like humble, down-to-earth, truly love yourself and others, and with impeccable integrity. If you have those two things, everything else will work itself out.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. We're down to the hour mark, but I would love for you to come back on the show if you want. And then I'll have to come visit you up there and meet you in person. And, I'm just waiting for, I don't know if you know my whole story, but I have a colostomy. So I'm waiting to just be really, really comfortable with it before I go on any hiking treks or anything. But I will get it there. Especially after seeing all these little gay boys with no shirt on and in New York during Pride. I was like,
you got to watch out. They're so sexy. The gay guys are always the sexiest ones, man.
I'm like, fuck you. Next year, colostomy or not, I am taking my shirt off. I'm going to show whatever abs I have but dude, thank you. And it's really refreshing to talk to somebody that has, like, you meet somebody and you're like, dude, I've been thinking that. Like, yeah, I know that. And before I go, there's just some stuff that I learned during my time in rehab, because I just did 10 years. But the one thing that I learned in rehab was something that you said, like, about the bubble and what we call the foundation. And what they told us, or what they told me, was build a strong foundation.
Yeah.
However, AA, spirituality, religion, whatever you want to do, but build the foundation to hold anything.
Yeah.
And then you can go anywhere.
Yes.
Without that strong foundation, you will crumble out in the real world.
Every time.
Because I was there for 90 days and they're like, yeah, we got you covered here.
Yeah.
But we're only taking care of everything else so that you don't have to worry about a bad foundation.
Yeah.
And I will admit that I haven't been in the rooms of AA for several years, but I always carry that foundation. And whenever I feel something, a little too much wind or a little earthquake, I go back to my foundation. I'm like, okay, it hasn't cracked. I'm good to go. Let's move forward. So when you talk about the bubble, I'm like, oh shit, that's basically the same concept.
Yeah.
And how beautiful. I'm like, I hope people get that. Like, my mind just blew all of a sudden. Like, yeah. So please come back on the show. I'd love to have you back, especially talking about the relationship part. I think a lot of people would really benefit. So, don't hang up. Hold on a second. Let me just say goodbye to everybody because we got a couple of things to talk to you about. So for everybody listening, I hope you got as much as I did. Christopher John Stubbs. I don't know if you actually said the name of your program.
So the initiation is my men's only program.
The initiation. Thank you. So this is Christopher John Stubbs with the initiation on our show today. Listen to this again if you didn't once, because I'm sure you missed something. I'm going to go back and listen to it too. Thanks to my producer, Mr. Kevin Moyers, who actually motivated me to reach out to you and get you on the show. He wanted to hear you too. So thank you guys. Go nomorejibbit.com. Check it out. Follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Instagram, did I say that? And Twitter, at Little Mexican, LILMESICAN. Email me at danielggarza@hotmail.com, DANIELGGARZA. For, if you want to be on the show, just send me an email saying podcast, and I will read it and get back to you. Would love to have you come share your story. And hey, this is Daniel Garza saying, put it together.
Subscribe to Put It Together on iTunes, Stitcher, and at abnormalentertainment.com/putittogether. Find Put It Together on Facebook and tweet Daniel at Lil Messican, LILMESICAN. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.